When watching these videos, it is recommended that you go to your change quality settings and change the settings to the highest quality possible, which is usually 720p HD, and then switch to full screen view. Welcome back to the Introduction series. This is Introduction to Tables Part 3. If you missed Introduction to Tables Part 1 or 2, or Introduction to Database Design, please visit freeaccesstutorials.com where you can find the video links and you can catch up. We're going to go ahead and get started where we left off. Okay, so at the end of the last tutorial I gave you a challenge to do 3 tables on your own. So let's go through those tables. You can see how I did them and see if you want to change anything in your tables. Let's start with salesperson. I'm going to go into design view, and social security number was the primary key that I chose, and I chose my data type to be a text. You can use a number, it'll work just the same, but I chose input mask because I chose text. If I didn't choose an input mask, they could put in anything that they wanted, but the input mask will restrict them to put in just the social security number. Now, for the salesperson's name, I went back to my rules and I realized that I wasn't quite completing all the rules, so I went to rule number 4, break fields into separate fields if the data describes more than one element. So I broke it into a first name and a last name. Now, if I was just planning on using just the first name, then I could have just stuck with salesperson's name, but to show you that usually you want to break a name into a first and a last name, I went ahead and did that. Now for gender, I went to my lookup and I chose a combo box and a value list row source, and I filled in male and female as the options, and I limited it to that list because I don't expect any aliens or dogs or anything like that to be using my program, so it's either going to be a male or a female choice. So that was my salesperson's table. Okay, so the next table will be sales phone, which you could have called it sales phone number, it doesn't matter, salesperson's phone number. Now I chose my field name to be sales phone ID and the data type to be auto number, and that is my primary key. Now for my foreign key, I chose SPN for sales phone number. Even though sales phone is the name of the table, if you look, the initials salesperson SP and sales phone SP, so it could get confusing, so I just put an N in there and that will just help me remember. You don't have to do that, it doesn't matter. It's personal preference. So sales phone number and then social security number, and then I chose text as my data type. If you remember correctly, you need to have the same data type as your primary key in which you plan to link to. Now note that an auto number and a number are considered the same type of a data type. So other than that situation, it'll be exact, but if you have an auto number as your primary key, the foreign key will be a number. Now, for my phone number, I just chose text and I went ahead and put an input mask in, which I used obviously the phone number input mask. And for my extension, I just chose a number just like I did before. And my phone type, I did a very similar thing. I went to the lookup and chose my combo box value list, and I went through and made my selections. So that's my sales phone number table. Okay, so next will be sales address, and I used sales address ID as my primary key. As you can see, it's assigned the primary key, and I chose auto number. Now for my foreign key, I had the prefix of SA, and that's for sales address. So sales address, social security number, and then of course it's a text because the primary key in the main table which I'm linking to is a text, and the data types need to be the same. For street, city, and state, I chose text, pretty much the same as the others, and for state I did limit my field size to 2 again, and then my zip code is a number. So sales address is very similar to customer address. So that was my sales address table. Okay, let's go ahead and create our last table that we need, which is our each sale table. So go ahead and go to the Create tab, Table Design, and my primary key is going to be Sale ID, and I'm going to choose that as an auto number, and I assign that as the primary key by using this key up here. Now I do have two foreign keys in this particular table, so I need to go ahead and just put an S for the sales table. I just need to remember that just one S is going to be for sales. And then let's start with the customer ID. And of course, since my customer ID, if you remember correctly, in the customer info, my customer ID is an auto number, so I need to make this a number. And then my other foreign key is my social security number, and I need to make that a text data type. So both of my foreign keys match the data types for the primary keys for which they are linking to. And then I want quantity, and for quantity I want to go ahead and use a number, and then price, I want to use a currency, and that'll do it for this table. So let me go ahead and save that, and I'm going to save that as my sales table. Now we need to go ahead and start creating the relationships. So we need to go ahead and go to the Database Tools tab and then click on Relationships. So as we come into the Relationships area, the Show Table form should automatically appear. If it does not, just go ahead and click on Show Table and it should come up. The first relationship that we are going to create is going to be between salesperson, so you can click on salesperson and click add, and salesperson's phone number. And so you can also double click and it will show up. So let's close out of the Show Table form, and we want to connect our primary key from our salesperson's table, which is our social security number, with the foreign key from sales phone table. You do that by either selecting the foreign key or the primary key, doesn't matter, and drag it over to the other. This will create the relationship between them, and it knows that it's going to be a one-to-many relationship, and we have a few options we can choose. We can choose Enforce Referential Integrity, Cascade Update Related Fields, Cascade Delete Related Records. Now I'm going to go into a different program and explain exactly what these mean. They are very important. Okay, so this is the example that we're going to use. We have table A, which has John and Paul, and John has 3 phones that are associated with him, 3 phone numbers, and Paul has 2 phone numbers. Now if I do not have Enforce Referential Integrity selected, that means that I can come over to this number, open up this table in Datasheet View, and just change this number to 3. And obviously you can see there's a problem. There's no 3 to be associated with. And so if I enforce referential integrity, that means that all of the numbers over here have to be associated with a number over here. So I can still come into this table and associate this number to 2, but I cannot change it to 3, which is good because that will cause an error. Now if I have Cascade Update Related Fields, what does that mean? That means if I come over here and change this 1 to a 3, that all of the related fields will also change to a 3. So it will keep them in line, it will keep them connected and update the related fields. Now if I have Cascade Delete related records selected, well, first of all, let's go over if I don't have it selected. And I come over here and I try to delete Paul, it won't let me. I have to come over to Table B, I have to delete each of the records that are associated with Paul first, one at a time, and then I can come over and delete Paul. But if I have Cascade Delete related records selected, I can delete Paul and it'll say, do you want to delete all related records? And then it'll delete all of these records for me. So I usually use all three: Enforce Referential Integrity, Cascade Update related fields, and Cascade Delete related records. Okay, so I want to go ahead and use all three options. Generally, I do use all three options in almost every relationship that I create. So I'm going to select my options and then click Create, and that will create my one-to-many relationship between my salesperson and my sales phone table. Now let's go ahead and go back up and show the show table form again. Okay, and let's go ahead and select sales address, and we'll create that relationship. Now you can drag these around so they look a little bit better. And I know that I want my foreign key for my sales address to go ahead and drop that right on my primary key for my salesperson's table. Use all my options and click Create. Let's go ahead and add all the rest of the tables. Rearrange them so they look a little bit better. You can also expand them a little bit, shrink them, do whatever you need to. Now, I know that my customer phone number, I need my foreign key from this table to go with my primary key from this table. I want all of my options, one-to-many, the fields are correct, Create. Same here. Okay. Now my sales table has two foreign keys, and it is going to be linking to both sides. So for my foreign key here, I drag that to my primary key here, create the same options, and then for my foreign key here, we go in this direction, and all of my relationships are set up the way that we had originally planned them. Now I would like to go in and explain a little bit more in detail if you're still having trouble with getting the concept on how to set up which relationships and how do you know which relationship you're supposed to be using between two different tables. Okay, we're going to go ahead and review relationships and go over a good way to identify what relationships your tables should have between one another. If you use the phrase, each table A can have one or many table B, and then flip it around, each table B can have one or many table A, you will produce your relationship. For instance, each tiger can have blank stripes, can have many stripes. Each stripe can have one tiger. So therefore the relationship becomes a one-to-many relationship. Each box can have many crowns. Each crown can have one box. So therefore it becomes a one-to-many relationship. Each student can have many classes, and each class can have many students. So that becomes a many-to-many relationship. We're not going to cover many-to-many relationships in this tutorial series because they are a little bit more complicated. But we will be covering them in other tutorials. Just check out the website, freeaccesstutorials.com. But this is a very good method for you to identify what relationships your tables should have between one another. In the next tutorial, we will be going over queries, and we'll go ahead and get started into the introduction of queries. Thank you for watching this video. Please visit freeaccesstutorials.com for more free videos on Microsoft Access, and we hope to see you soon.